lot of times I'm driving, there's nothing to do, and I shuffle through the radio before I unglue. There's a lot of red on ways, it's traffic, I'm screwed, and I'm wired a bit different than a regular dude. It's not a bad thing, I embrace it, it's true. The radio don't stimulate brain chemistry fluid. The Buddha found nirvana and the Four Noble Truths. Through a meditative process, right action he proved. For me, I require the use of a tool, a detector, pin, pointer, shovel, and beach scoop. I'm meant to work the dirt with my history crew, but everywhere I look, my interest taboo. Most people choose Bieber over Tippecanoe. What does a detectorist listen to when the radio is full of bad music and news? I need an alternative for me to peruse. Beyond Sight and Sound gets fantastic reviews. A metal detecting show where my thought bubble brews. Thank you, Josh Kimmel, for inviting me to a detecting dork out with guests like yours truly.
Are you looking for a high-quality beach and sand scoop? Are you trying to take your hunting to the extreme? How about an American-based company that stands behind their product and everything they sell? Then check out our friends over at XTREME Scoops. John has been making scoops for some time now and makes a quality beach and sand scoop to take your hunting to the next level. XTREME Scoops recently released their new sand shredder that works great in the water and on the beach. And if you're a new Equinox user, you may want to check out his Surfmaster X3 that can trap those small targets you new Equinox users are finding out there. XTREME Scoop's company approach is let's do it right. So do it right, buy it once, and go to the extreme. XTREMEScoops.com. That's XTREME scoops.com. Caution. Please do not operate motor vehicles or power equipment while under the influence of this show. Listening to this show could cause side effects such as bouts of laughter, violent binges of cabin fever, and even dreams of silver and gold.
All right, we're back.
All right, we're back. Now that the fine print is out of the way, on with the show.
All right, we're back and we're live once again. Too much traffic going on in my head tonight, I guess. I don't know. But we are back. We're live once again. You are listening to Beyond Sight and Sound, metal detecting and treasure hunting radio for all the really cool digging people out there. And as I look into the chat, I see Chuck's in, Kendall, Grant, Swansea. I believe I thought I saw somebody said something about that. I'm not real sure there. Paul, Pear, the Bills. Good grief. Scotty, looks like somewhere along there I saw, there's Travis. Welcome aboard, buddy. Dennis out of California. Man, they're jumping in from all over the place. Wow. Good to see, definitely good to see. Either way, we're back, we're live once again. We're here on Wednesdays, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern, always 8 p.m. Eastern, or as close to it as we can when we throw the switch. Links in the description. First and foremost, our friends over at Shooters and Prospectors. Chuck Smalley, the man with the plan, the dealer of choice, a multi-line dealer, folks. Multi-line. XP, Garrett, MineLab, Nook the Macro, Detector Pro, many, many others. And somebody recently saw that I updated the prices over on the appreciation post that we have for those that have the Beyond Sight and Sound apparel, and asked me, said, well, where can I get those Garrett Keeper boxes? You know, like if I'm not lucky enough to win one or whatever. And I told him, I said, well, you know, contact Chuck Smalley. He can get them for you, too. He doesn't deal in just detectors, folks. He's got books, he's got digging tools, he can get you the finds boxes, the pen pointers. All I can say is give him a call. You never know until you talk to the man, and he's a great guy to talk to, too. Our friends over at DETECTEES, XTREME Scoops, XP Team USA, see if I get it right this time, Facebook group, website, and the Metal Detecting Podcast, formerly known as XP Team USA Podcast. That's still a mouthful. I'm still getting used to it. I'm probably going to wind up tripping over myself one of these nights trying to get it done. But hey, we got it done. We got it out there. Also, Ohio Metal Detecting NYC on YouTube and Facebook, All Metal Militia on Facebook, the Great Metal Detecting Christmas Giveaway on Facebook for kids ages 5 to 15, which we are still taking donations for. There will be a post showing up in the group soon stating the deadline to receive donations and the weekend that the giveaways will be held. The weekend that the giveaways will be held will be December 13th, 14th, and 15th, if I remember correctly. But I do see the captain herself in the chat, so she can always chime in on that. Definitely. Also, we have the links for Montshiredigger and RIBottleguy, Rhode Island, YouTube channels in the description as well. So those that haven't checked out their videos, they can find those links in the description as well. Maybe one of the listeners can drop it into the chat. I'm sure Kendall probably has access to the link for Montshiredigger at the very least. So other than that, obviously tonight we're talking about bottle digging. This is a little something different for people, right? I mean, many of us do it. We've not had the opportunity to dedicate a complete episode to it very much in the past, so this is a nice change of pace here. I have definitely wanted to do some shows on bottle digging and even glass preservation. One of these days I'll get somebody on to talk about the old glass insulators, but we'll see. We'll see. Either way, it's, you know, let's just get them in here. We've actually got Jim tonight from All Metal Militia, who goes by Montshiredigger on YouTube, and his friend Taylor, the RIBottleguy on YouTube. So let's get them in here and see what they've got going on. So how's it going tonight, guys?
Good, Josh. Excellent.
All right, so we've got Jim. Hopefully we didn't lose Taylor. Or maybe we did lose Taylor. I'm not hearing him. Well, now this is very interesting. It looks like he's still on with us. But I'm not hearing him. Are you with us now, Taylor? Ground control to Taylor. All right, I'm not sure what's going on there. We have lost Taylor. So, I guess we'll start off with you then, Jim. And hopefully we can get Taylor back in here. Maybe, pre-show jitters or something. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Because I'm not seeing him on my screen anywhere. Yeah, we did lose him. So, we'll go ahead and start with you, Jim. Let people know how you've been, what got you into bottle digging. I mean, we know you do detecting as well. Have you done them both just as long, or did you do one before the other, or how did that work?
Josh, it started off with the metal detector. First year detecting. I got originally started by watching, YouTube 8-9 years ago, And seeing the guys dig stuff up, especially the New England guys, really got me to buy a detector. And I bought the AT-12, got it when it was all hyped up and had to wait for it. But I also noticed in the videos that the same guys that were digging New England, a lot of them did the bottle digging as well, and that intrigued me. For some reason, that really caught my attention that was really cool as well. So
Right.
I spent, part of the year detecting, and then stumbled across some bottles, and before you knew it, it was a constant battle every weekend that I was going to do, detecting the bottle dog.
Just couldn't make up your mind which.
No, I mean, when you first learn on the metal detector, you're coming home with some pocket change and nails and bottle caps and pull tabs, just like you do now. But, when you first start, and that can be a little demoralizing after you watch these videos and stuff of people pulling great stuff. So it kind of got me, when I started digging bottles, I was filling up backpacks and bags and finding relics that I wanted to find with my metal detector. I was digging out of the ground. So it kind of, that's how it took off. And I also, kept detecting and doing both.
And just kind of stuck with it then.
Yeah, it was, like one good thing led to another, and if the metal detecting, eventually I found something good that piqued my interest, and then I would spend maybe the next 2 or 3 weekends metal detecting.
I like
And
that.
then,
Eventually, I found something good that piqued my interest.
It's like, I think one of the first things I found was a silver pocket watch engraved in the town I live in with my detector, and I hammered that spot and found all kinds of things, and then, it started getting boring again when I couldn't find a better place to detect, so I started digging bottles, and still to this day, I hit a cold spot with the detecting last weekend or so. We walked miles and miles of cornfields without finding anything, or, decent, and then you go out, dig a couple balls, next thing you know, you have the best ball digging day you ever had, So it's always rewarding.
Right. And I think we do have Taylor back with us. So when did you get into bottle digging, Taylor? What got you into all of this?
Hey, when I was, I think around 10 years old, my family just moved into a new house in the middle of the woods, and we had a neighbor. They had to walk a trail through the woods to his house, and he had his house on the site of an old farmstead, and there was old cars and the cellar hole and everything all around there. And on one of our first visits there, I found a bottle sticking out of the ground.
And that kind of hooked you then, huh?
A little bit, yeah. I thought it was cool. It might have been a year or so until I went back and realized, if I dig, there's more bottles on the ground.
Now, was the one that was sticking out of the ground, was it intact or anything?
Yeah, it was in perfect condition. Nothing special, but it was a nice little handmade shoe polish bottle.
So it was definitely an older bottle. You must have been on this farm must have been an older piece of land.
Yeah, the owner believes it goes back to the 1600s.
Wow. That's old enough. Definitely. So you went back a year later and you started digging then. I'm assuming you were unearthing more. Welcome to Miss Detectorist too, by the way, in the chat.
Yeah, I went back. The funny thing was, that was the only old bottle I found there. The rest were all from the 40s and 1950s or so, which was good, though, because I was a novice digger. and it was good practice. I wouldn't, break anything I would end up regretting in the future.
Oh, well, yeah, good point. I guess that's how we learn along the way, so to speak, learn from our mistakes and gain from our experience.
Indeed.
So, you and Jim have, you've done quite a bit of bottle digging together then, too.
No, we've never dug together. I have not dug with Taylor yet.
Yeah, sadly, no.
Oh, so it's kind of right. Know each other through the community, lurk on each other's channels.
Yeah, we actually go to the same. We go to a lot of bottle shows.
Nice.
Yeah, and I had watched. Taylor was one of the guys that I was watching all the time. He's, New England guy, digging some tremendous bottles, and so I knew who he was. The first time I saw him at a show, I just had to introduce myself because I really enjoyed his videos.
Nice.
Now I see him at the show. I just saw him in Keene this last couple weekends, so
yeah, there was
I know
a big.
he goes to the show.
Yeah, there was a big bottle show out there not too awful long ago. It sounds like you even brought some pieces home for your collection.
Oh yeah, I always seem to break the bank when I go to. Luckily, there's only a few here and there because I go all out. I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I'm pretty addicted to glass, especially glass I can't dig. I haven't done before.
Right. Yeah, I heard you two talking before the show, and I believe it was Taylor had mentioned something about cobalt, and that's kind of my weakness a bit too. I love cobalt glass.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty color that people like. I prefer like green. Emerald green and the teal blue, but my personal collection is mostly pharmacy medicine bottles, local town,
Nice.
Vermont and Hampshire.
Nice. What about you, Taylor? Is your bottle collection fairly expansive, or do you have certain niches that you like to stay in?
Oh yeah, it's quite expansive. I tried to put it into a niche of sorts by just collecting bottles from Rhode Island. I figured, hey, small state, I should be able to keep the numbers down. Sadly, that did not work at all. Currently I have, I think around, give or take, 3,000 different bottles just from Rhode Island alone.
And these are, well, I assume the majority of these, or at least half of them, are bottles you've dug. Not many of these are purchased pieces.
A good number, have been dug. Although I do go to shows. I do buy on eBay, and I have bought a couple collections too, as well.
Wow, very interesting. So I guess. For you then, obviously, you started out bottle digging, but then you kind of got interested in detecting as well.
I did, yes. I mean, it's funny because I have been wanting to buy a detector probably since I started digging from bottles 20-odd years ago. My parents did buy me one. It could maybe pick up a quarter from an inch away, but that was about it.
Right. So you got yourself an AT Pro, and you're, so far it seems like you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I am. I've already made a few very nice finds, so I'm quite happy with it.
What's one of your most memorable ones so far with the detector?
Let's see. Well, one of the first digs I went on was actually with Miss Detectorist, we went to my grandparents' house. It's an 1809 Colonial, and right near the old barn, I pulled out my first copper, which is I think a Connecticut penny, 1787.
Wow. Nice job. Very cool, definitely. So it's possible that we have, those of us that follow Miss Detectorist may have seen you in a video.
Possibly. I don't think that one has been up yet. But we are in a video. I think I took her digging for bottles as well, because she had been interested in that as well.
Oh, nice. Okay, so a little bit of back and forth there.
Yeah.
Nice. So when did you decide to start putting yourself out there on YouTube?
I honestly have to check, but it's been maybe 8 years. I think I started taking videos.
Wow. So you've been doing the whole YouTube thing a little longer than Jim has, then, I do believe. Is that correct, Jim?
Oh yeah, he's definitely a veteran compared to me on the YouTube. I can't wait to my next video, because it's all raw. It's all, before I had a little bit of help, and now it's all. I'm hoping it's gonna be better though, because it's all raw. It's all me and doing everything. So.
Right. And I assume maybe we'll see some of Taylor's finds in your video as well, because Taylor, I guess, just uploaded a video today of the hunt. No, you guys haven't dug together.
No, Taylor did. No. He released some random digs, I guess, over the summer. So.
Right.
Mine's still being Mine's almost done.
Okay. And you're just using, well, I guess both of you, for your YouTube channels, you're both just using your cell phone. What sort of editing software are either of you using for your videos?
I use... you go first, Tim.
No, you go ahead, Taylor.
All right, mine's pretty simple. I just use I think Windows Movie Maker.
Wow, I didn't even realize Windows Movie Maker still worked. You must be running on an older system.
I guess it could be. Yeah, I know it's very simple, but it has enough features that I can put out an okay video.
Oh, no, absolutely. I agree. There was nothing wrong with Windows Movie Maker. I don't know why they took it out of Windows 10. It was simple. It was to the point, pretty user-friendly, and you could still do some good videos.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what about you, Jim?
Yeah.
What editing are you using?
I use something similar to what he has. I'm not a big fan of it's cool, some of these thumbnails, stuff that people use, and all this flashy stuff, but I'm kind of a guy that likes to just let my shovel do the talking, let my detector do the talking, I don't need all this flash. I know it helps promote videos or brings attention and stuff to manufacturers, but I still think a lot of the plain Jane digging awesome stuff up is what really sells. The videos or get I just want to be able to record my finds to show that it was dug up here that day, whatever.
Right. So you're just kind of...
Too much stuff over the years I've dug that I have no documentation of, no pictures and nothing. And, you can start getting older, you start thinking about,
Yeah, so you're just kind of more or less whatever it takes, just get it done and get it up there. It's there for documentation and possibly even education for some.
Exactly, and it's so if you like, I watch YouTube all the time. I don't watch cable hardly at all, except the football game, baseball games. It's the stuff that actually, I'm not the flashy stuff is all right, but it's really about getting dirty and producing something out of the ground. Using your knowledge of the area, the history, what have you. That's what it's all about.
Right. Makes sense. Definitely. Excuse me. So for people that are, I don't know, say people have always been interested in bottle digging, how do you guys go about doing your research to find your bottle dumps? I guess you want to go first, Jim?
Yeah, well, my area is pretty much all, a lot of farms, a lot of fields. Usually, any farm with any kind of history. I mean, the farmers are the ones that I think first started the dump. They're the ones that dump stuff over banks that covered it up dirt the most of anybody. And there's a place nearby where I live where I did some research. I was lucky enough to have, well, I don't know if I was lucky enough, but the second, third generation bottle digger down the street from me that, of course, he's in his 70s and doesn't dig. His mother had just passed away at 100 some odd years old, and she was actually a digger in the 60s. I try to suck up as much knowledge from him, even the places that he's already been. But doing some research in my own area, this area that I have dug since day one, 7, 8 years now, it was originally a farm dump that the farmer actually leased out the area. Of course, the farmers, they dump on property where it's unusable for livestock or crops or whatever. So the land's totally unusable anyways. It's usually in a ravine or next to it, right in a river, over the bank. The farmer actually leased the property out to the town. And I guess that was common back in the day. So the town people, especially in that general area, could dump there. And the farmer got paid whatever he got paid for the use of the land. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I look for, farms and any kind of old house. There's plenty of old houses where I live, dating back to the 1700s, 1800s. Everybody dumped their trash out the back door, over the bank. More so over here, over ravines of banks, because there's much more wooded areas. Rivers, the Connecticut River, that's a big one for me. I've dug all along the Connecticut River.
Right. That makes sense. What about you, Taylor? Pretty much the same scenario, or do you do things a little different in your area?
Well, yeah, there's a lot that's similar, and a few different things. I would say the biggest tip I ever get is basically word of mouth. Either veteran diggers or people who just hear I dig for bottles and say, "Oh, hey, I saw some bottles over here in this park or in my backyard," and can get permission and go out and sure enough, there's a bottle dump.
Nice. That makes it good and easy.
Yeah, word of mouth, definitely one of the biggest things.
Right. Now, when you guys, once you guys pin down the location, find the location of the bottle dump, how do you go about? How do you guys go about excavating it and preserving the items out there in the field so you can make them make it out of the field intact with these pieces that you're digging up? Taylor, why don't you go first?
All right. Well, I use my tool of choice is basically like a long-handled cultivator or maybe a clam rake. So it has like 3 or 4, bent prongs at the end. I find that very, very good as far as I can sometimes hit a bottle and it won't damage it if I'm digging carefully. And once I find a bottle, it's very easy to dig around it.
Okay, and then what do you do once you get it out of the ground?
I'm pretty old-fashioned. I just use a good old like a 5-gallon plastic bucket, and I'll put the bottles in there. Every now and then, I'll have an extra glove or two to put a nice fragile bottle in, or some newspaper maybe to wrap them with. But usually they're more sturdy than you think, and I never had one break on trips home or anything like that.
Oh, wow. Nice, because I have heard of incidents and seen a couple of times myself where you get them out of the ground and they seem fine, but then, everything, they're still, they've been in the ground, there's some moisture, whatever, they're getting dried out, they're getting kind of bounced around, and next thing you know, you've got a couple of them crack.
Oh, yeah, okay, this is true. Especially in like city dumps where there was a lot of burning happening. It's been in the ground for, some bottles have been there for 100, 150 years, and exposing them to fresh air is a bit of a shock. It doesn't happen too often, but every now and then I think maybe 1 in every 100, 200 bottles might crack or pop just from being exposed to the air. And then another, 1 in 50 or 100 or so might break if you're using like water to wash them, even though you're using like a neutral temperature water, they still can't handle it.
Okay. What about you, Jim? What do you do to excavate and bring the bottles out of the field?
Yeah, I have a potato rake, or 4 or 5 prong rake that I cut to fit in my backpack, and then I have usually a small hand rake for more delicate, excavation. And sometimes a shovel. I remember the first time I got invited to go. It was like the first year I ever dug. I didn't know anything, and I actually got invited to go with this guy that was big time over in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we went over there, and I showed up with my potato rake, and he's like, "What's that? Where's your shovel?" Because like in the city, at least over there in Manchester and Salem areas, the dumps are flat. They're pushed down into the ground and leveled.
Right,
and
so a lot of overburden to get off of there first.
Well, no, it was just flat ground, and you dig straight down. It was the hardest digging I've ever done in my life because I'm so used to digging up on a hill or a hillside or,
okay.
Ground. And this guy was a pro. I mean, his videos and stuff he wasn't probably the nicest guy you could meet or the most friendliest guy, but he, I basically went just to absorb any kind of information I could watch him. And all I know is it took me like 2 or 3 hours to dig 2 or 3 feet down. The ground was so hard. And I turn around and he's down 9 feet and just, going.
Wow. Sounds like he's a regular machine.
He was definitely a pro. And I learned a lot that day. I learned how much better shape I needed to be in, and he didn't find much, but that was okay. You kind of like detecting. Bad day detecting still better than going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And Maya's actually asking in the chat if you can mention who that was in Manchester.
What's that?
Maya in the chat would like to know who that was in Manchester, if you're able to mention them.
Yeah, I don't. His name's Matt, and I don't know his last name. He used to do a lot of videos. He used to go under dirt work, and Dirt Flicker was his most recent. He was, like I said, I don't think he had a lot of enemies. I think in the process singing,
Actually,
I do know that.
Yeah, that's been a while ago that you were digging with him, then I would say. But yeah, I know of Dirt Flicker. Actually, Dirt Flicker used to follow the show.
Oh, did it? Yeah. I mean, he treated me great. I mean, he brought me to his house. I bought some bottles. He showed me some stuff. He actually had he actually put a bunch of money down on his condo with bottles of the dog. So I mean, he was incredible that way. But yeah, so unfortunately, I wish I had more knowledge at the time. It would have been more enjoyable. But I did follow him for quite a while. But then there's other guys like Chris Gadney. I've once in a while asked him for pointers. I've seen him at the shows. He's a real stand-up guy, real nice guy. He's done a number of videos. And you're back about the excavating of the bottles. I have experienced that a lot over here, where you take something that's 4, 5, 6 feet underground, the cold dirt, especially this time of year when it's really cold, and you pull something out that's been down there. It bottles can get loose down over this way. They do get shocked, and when they get shocked, they crack. And so what I usually do is, especially if it warms up, whatever, you don't want to put them in direct sunlight. And I actually would keep them in the dirt, kind of a little bit of dirt on top of them, and let them come to above ground temperature and then I'll wrap them up. If they're decent bottles, I'll wrap them up and put them in my pack. But
nice.
Yeah, so this combination of watching these guys like Taylor, on his videos and going to the ball shows and that, it's just a wealth of knowledge. And if you're interested, there's plenty of people and places to pick up knowledge from.
Right, exactly. So, say you guys make it out of the field with your bottles. They make it home all right. They acclimate to the temperature okay. Do you do anything as far as cleaning them, or do you just kind of rub the dirt off of them and leave them be?
Well, yeah, we definitely do some cleaning when we get home. I guess I can tell you my method is pretty straightforward. I have like one of those like rougher sponges, the green kind of scrubbing pads. I'll wash the outside with those first. And if the bottle's nothing too weird or valuable, and they have like say rust stains on them, steel wool does a great job in taking rust stains off. And then the inside, I have some bottle brushes for the necks, and then I have a bunch of fine cut copper pellets, little tiny things, a lot smaller than a BB, and I put those in the bottle because copper won't scratch the glass. Maybe a little ammonia or Windex, and shake that gently, and that'll get out most of the dirt on the inside.
Sounds pretty similar to the same methods that I've used in the past, but they work well. Good method there, Taylor. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, a lot of it depends on what dump I'm digging. Like this dump that's near me, that I don't go there very often anymore because I got bored of it, digging there for 8 years. But that kind of a dump, a lot of metal, a lot of acid and stuff in the ground, where you get a lot of that nasty in the haze and the rust. First of all, I washed them down rinse them out with water. I use bottle brushes like Taylor probably does. I got 3 or 4 bags of different size brushes. And let's say if I'm going to get rust off, if it's just like rust on the edges, or, just a spot here and there, I use a steel wool. That's the easiest. But if it's expensive rusting, I do use the CLR. I soak them, with a 50% CLR and 50% warm water. And I usually, depending on situation, I might let them sit for a week to 3 weeks in the CLR, so when you pull them out, it's almost effortless to get the rust off. As far as the hazing and cloudiness, that type of stuff, I use the ammonia. Is probably one of my favorites. Ammonia, just let them sit in there for 2 or 3 weeks. Or, if I don't have that, I'll use bleach.
Okay.
But that's it.
All right. Any like a lot of times for us as detectorists, and I'm sure you've heard this plenty of times too, Jim, if you've got something that you think could be valuable, you may not want to mess with it. Same thing with the bottles or not.
Definitely want to take a more careful approach for sure. Rinsing out, making sure you're using away brushes and not trying to squeeze anything down that bottle that's too big or brushed but no, I still use the same. Absolutely, like the ammonia soap is great. If it's rust, I feel a lot, and I use pretty much the same approach, but I've never really. I've never found a historical flask or something like that. I've never found one of those, so I might be a little nervous about that.
What about you, Taylor? Any hesitation if you think you have a bottle that is quite potentially valuable?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, of course, you find a real nice bottle, you want to clean it off right away, so it's pretty hard to wait. But yeah, and try to wait. And when you do clean it, I just generally go the same way as a common bottle. I just do it much more slowly, and make sure I am very careful not to jostle it or shock it with more temperature changes.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I'm sure that would be, kind of a kick in the teeth to think you've got a valuable one, and then as you're cleaning it, you shock it a little bit or something, and all of a sudden it's cracked or broken.
I've done that.
Yeah, indeed.
It's not fun. It's still sitting on one of the best whiskey flasks I've ever dug. It was probably like 1910, but I had all kinds of embossing over it. I dug it like right down the street, so it meant that much more to me because I know somebody locally had that to the mouth or whatever at one point. And, I brought it home, and that's when I learned a lot about water temperature. You got to be careful. You can't have hot water, and that you can't have ice cold water. I think it was just enough. I think the water temperature was off or something. It wasn't cracked when I put it down there on the shelf, but I went down a couple of days later and it actually had like a fresh crack in it. And I was like so devastated.
Ouch. What about you, Taylor? You got any horror stories like that?
Well, see, the first one I recall when I discovered that this happens, I found it wasn't a beer bottle, but it was a nice looking food jar, had a cool shape to it, cleaned up perfect, and I put it on the shelf and went to pick it up 2 days later, and the base of the bottle stayed on the shelf.
Oh, man. Now, in cases like that, because I've heard of some people doing this too, do you just say, well, shame on me, it's pitched, or do you try to glue it back together, or what do you do?
Oh well, I was still new to digging then, so I was pretty devastated. I just used a little bit of tape, and I think I have it somewhere in a box.
Wow. So now that you've had more experience, if you run across something like that and that happens, what's your means of attack?
Well, sometimes the ones I found that do tend to crack more often are thin-walled bottles. The glass is pretty thin, and they're always usually round. I haven't had many square, rectangular bottles or bottles of thick glass have any sudden cracks or damage from being cleaned or dug up. So usually the round ones, there's something about the shape that makes them more susceptible to cracking. So if you have one like that that you're afraid might crack, I usually clean the outside, which doesn't do much, but the inside, when I clean the inside, it seems to affect it more. So I'll try to either wait a few days to clean it, or just try not to use a lot of water, just enough to get it wet on the inside.
Well, that makes sense. So do you guys find that, like you said, sometimes it depends on the shape? Then the regular round bottles, maybe they have more of a tendency to break or crack than say the square ones or anything like that. One or the other of you. You go first, Jim.
Well, for me, it's just, depending on the situation where they came from. Some of the best bottles I've ever found were under piles of rocks that you could barely lift. I remember one time a few years back where I convinced my son to go with me. You think your son you would want to do things that his father does. Well, that's not the case. I had to about beg him to go with me. And we went to some cellar holes where I had detected a lot and not been too successful. But I did see some scratch holes around the area and some glass, so I wanted to go back and dig it up. And boy, we dug it up, and you said there was a pile of, where all the glass was, there wasn't really much for bottles. And I looked over to my son, I said, you know where the bottles are, don't you? And he goes, nowhere. And I said, under that big pile of rocks. I said, front of me was like they covered everything with rocks. They thought it just disappeared, out of sight, out of mind. And we started picking after a couple of rocks, I realized I'm barely holding this rock up, and I'm looking down, and I see one of those Clark Stanley snake oils in mint condition underneath a boulder. I'm holding the boulder. I'm like, how did that happen? How is this in such great shape?
Right. How is it not in just pieces?
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, stuff like that. I'm sure Taylor can relate. It's just, you never forget something like that. Well, so if you're digging if you're digging 6 feet underground, or not too often you're digging that deep, but there's rocks and stuff, you got to be careful. The bottles are delicate. Obviously the better bottles are, like Taylor said, cleaning them slowly. The common bottles are kind of just racking and stacking them, There's so many of them.
Now, how on average, how deep are you guys digging in these bottle dumps, Jim?
Well, if it's out by my house, the dump could go anywhere from 3 to 7 feet. But it's a sandy type base with rocks underneath. So, but like a regular ravine type dump that I was digging the other day, you're only going down maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet, and hitting the dirt, the fresh dirt.
And does that seem to be about the same for you, Taylor?
Yeah, it depends on the dump you're digging. Like, most farm dumps, I've seen them anywhere from as shallow as like 6 inches all the way down to maybe 3 feet or so. If you go into city dumps, a whole different ball game. Those can be usually a couple feet, and I know one I've been digging recently. I think at the deepest point we were down at least 15 feet.
Wow. So I guess with that in mind, then, do you guys have a preference on the type of dumps that you dig? Like, do you prefer, say, a farm bottle dump over a city dump, or vice versa?
Well, I think they both have their pros and cons.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to dig a farm dump, but I've never really had the opportunity to dig in a city dump except that one time, and I really didn't know what I was doing. Like, just get started.
Okay. All right. So do you know, like, obviously on flat ground, you're going to approach that a little differently than you would, say, on a hillside or a slope or something like that. Do you prefer the flatter areas to the sloped areas, or vice versa?
I'll definitely take a slope area anytime over a flat area.
What about you, Taylor?
It's a lot easier. They usually start off at the bottom of the ravine, where these are the biggest bottles are on the bottom. Because those are the rollers or the heaviest that went down. So you find I find that the bigger bottles are at the bottom. So you start at the bottom and you go up. It's called ramping up. So
right, so you're kind of coming in from the bottom of it and digging up towards it.
But at the right level down, and then kind of ramping up, and then it gets easier because now the stuff's literally coming at you with a rake there,
Right, that makes perfect sense. What about you, Taylor?
Yep, I'm definitely with Jim on slope dumps are much easier to dig. You just basically start standing up and go straight in. And once you're in a good spot, you're basically having bottles sticking out right in your face. It's nice and easy. If you're digging at a flat dump, you got to be down on your hands and knees a lot. You're going to be digging a hole, most likely, and crawling the hole and throwing dirt over your head. So if it's a lot of bottles, obviously it's worth the effort. But if you're just digging in a slope, going straight in, it's a lot easier.
Okay, well, now here's an interesting question in the chat to do with the orientation of the bottles. Do you guys find that the bottles, maybe that the opening of the bottle is facing up, is more apt to be intact, or the ones that are facing down, or really there's no rhyme or reason to it? Taylor?
It definitely depends on how deep they are. Once you're past the frost line, it doesn't really matter which way they're going. I know I've seen plenty that are deeper below the frost line. If they're facing up, they can be full of water, and that's doesn't affect them. But if they're closer to the surface, if they're facing upwards, they could fill with water, and that could freeze. So that often would lead to breakage.
That's a very good point. Yeah, very good point. Jim, pretty much the same experience?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like Taylor said, you dig. Sometimes it's, depending on where if it's on a bank, sometimes it varies too, where the maybe only 12 to 24 inches frost line, you're pulling these bottles out, even in I've dug a couple times not in the winter months with no snow. I remember one year digging, it was so great. It was like, my last day digging was December 24th, Christmas Eve. And, pulling bottles out full of water, that were 2-3 feet down. And perfectly intact. It's actually pretty warm down there. You know, it's a lot of steam coming out of the ground when you're opening it up and it gets cold. So yeah.
Okay. I think, let me see here. I think I'm all caught up with any of the questions that may have been going on in the chat. Hopefully I have been anyway. Oh, wait a minute.
I gotta tell you. Oh,
Go ahead, Jim.
I got a story to tell you. You want to, you know, so getting started into bottle day, and of course you have one, no different than metal detecting. You have one of those days where, you know, you just never forget. It got you hyped up and heading in a direction. Used to ride my bicycle a lot with my wife. We would ride. I lived right like less than like a mile from the Vermont border, you know, right there on the Connecticut River. So we're just mile and a half down the road, and then I'm into Vermont over the bridge. We were riding bikes, and I kept thinking about the guy down the road telling me stories about digging and telling me, no, it wasn't him, it was some kid that used to dig soda bottles. Says, yeah, there's a dump, you know, by the bridge. And we usually take our canoes in because it's a lot easier to go from the water up into this ravine, and the woods it's a very short amount of woods, but it's very thick. And so my wife and I riding our bicycles. Next thing you know, I said, hey, hold on a minute. I want to go over here and check out this woods that guy was telling me about. And she kind of gave me a little bit of dirty look. Okay, you go in there. So I'm crawling through the woods, you know, I'm in a pair of shorts, and I'm getting ripped up by you know, thorns and bushes and everything else. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, and I see that little ravine with glass in it stuff, and I'm seeing weird stuff, and I'm like, the same feeling I get today. I just get a kid in a candy store when I see that, you know, something I haven't seen before. And I tell you what, I couldn't get home quick enough on that bicycle. I can't only get my gloves and my rake, you know. And I don't think since then we haven't done a whole lot of bike riding. I'm too busy in the woods or doing something, but that's kind of like a story that got me motivated into bottle riding. Yeah,
did you pull many good bottles out of that spot?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of milk bottles, a lot of soda bottles, even some soda bottles that were, you know, I find them even, like Taylor said, less than 6 inches under the ground. And there used to be an old road that went through that wood, and it was kind of hidden, so I think people went back there and, you know, had a couple pops or a couple, you know, sodas or beers and just tucked them over. And boy, I couldn't believe the stuff that was out of there. Just a lot of local stuff, and you know, but you dig down deep enough, you know, you start getting into the older stuff, and it's kind of like detecting. They're never really dug out. There's never really, I mean, you have to dig a lot harder or look a lot harder to find something than you did, but there's still stuff in there.
Yeah, I imagine it gets pretty frustrating when you're running across all sorts of shards, and then you find one you think is going to be completely intact, and you find out it's not. I imagine that can get kind of frustrating fairly quick if you're not used to it.
Yeah, it's the shards that, I mean, I'd probably say with Taylor, it's the shards that I'm chasing, you know, it's looking at every piece. You know, if I'm not sure, you know, I'm checking, I know what everything is. I'm looking at the pieces. I know when I'm getting close. It's like with milk bottles. I don't buy milk bottles, but I don't mind digging them. They're fun to dig. And, once I start pulling up hundreds of broken milk bottles, I'm like, okay, game on. I'm going to find some milk bottles out of there. If I have to pull 100 broken ones, I'm going to find 2 or 3 good ones.
Pretty much the same scenario for you, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I have found a few dumps that are just tons of broken glass, and only a few whole bottles, and some that are just like every bottle is whole, which is pretty usually impressive.
What has been your best bottle digging day in a dump? How many intact bottles have you guys walked out with? I guess you go first, Taylor.
My best one is probably my favorite dig. Well, one of my favorite places to go digging is in old salt marshes, because the salt will actually keep the ground from freezing, so you can find a lot of stuff on the surface that never breaks. And also, when they chuck a bottle in the mud, a lot of times the mud will soften the landing, and so you got a lot more whole bottles on average than on land dumps. And I was in a spot once that was kind of filled in. I didn't see on the surface. There was a few broken modern bottles, nothing much. I saw one shard of an old bottle. I was like, okay. So I started digging down, and maybe into half a foot of sand, I just hit this layer of like darker muck, and it was just packed full of, handmade blown and mold bottles from the 1870s, 1880s. And as I kept digging down, they were just literally stacked like pancakes, and all shapes and sizes. And I must have pulled out well over around 200 bottles in the span of maybe 5 hours.
Good grief! That's a lot of bottles. You must have had to make a few trips or had a couple of buckets with you.
Yeah, but I had to call for reinforcements for one. I called my friend, tell him, get over here, I need help. He brought some more buckets.
Nice.
So yeah, that was.
That's we would have the car closed. Be able to get the car closed.
Yeah, and that dig's on YouTube. It was a hot summer day. I think I got heat stroke because I didn't care about drinking. I was all excited with the bottles.
Right, yeah. Well, got to make sure you stay hydrated out there. And what did you say, Jim? That came through kind of muffled.
What's that now?
You had said something, but it came through pretty muffled there. I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said I hope you had the car closed.
Oh.
You want to have the car really close by.
Right.
You're loading it up,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And what's been your best bottle day then as far as intact bottles out of one dig site, Jim?
Oh, boy. I've never had 200, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Taylor just kind of topped it there.
Got there, I wouldn't for that. I mean, I've had maybe 20, 25. There was a good dump that another guy and I had dug for quite a few years, turn of the century, and it was literally in the middle of a park. They built a park and all the fields and the picnic area on top of this dump. It was a town dump, and nobody knew it except us. That, of course, there's a river, a little small stream river there, and you just walk into the river, you look into the bank, and you can see rust and metal and turn of the century bottle parts everywhere, and
right.
Probably.
Hold on a minute there, Jim. We've got a caller. Go ahead, 603.
Hi, so it's Miss Detectors. There have been some questions in the comments here, and I volunteered to call in. and ask them.
Wow. So
If you guys are ready for them.
So you threw yourself on the grenade.
I sure did. I said I would.
Well, that's just the kind of trooper you are. I guess go ahead with the questions.
Do what we can. Yeah, so Ohio Relic Hunter wants to know what other finds besides bottles you guys find in dumps. You ever find any coins or shoes or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, we've seen a lot of shoes are one of the biggest things. I find buckles, colonial buckles, tokens, Civil War tokens. I've had years where the relics were 10 times better out of the bottle dump than with the detector, because you could find like 5 or 6 of them in one if you have the right piece of ground with the right age. Marbles. My last weekend, I've got like 8 marbles out of
maybe
one day.
Maybe porcelain buttons or something like that you're not going to pick up with a detector.
Civil War buttons. I found Civil War buttons. I've got all kinds of stuff. Railroad tokens. A lot of railroad tokens.
Any lead seals?
Any what?
Bale seals? Lead seals?
No, it's kind of too small to see for me, anyways. But mostly buckles, but you find like the full belt with the buckle from the 1800s, and I don't, because the leather is generally preserved. Clothes with buttons on them. Oh yeah, you can find almost anything. I found pennies and stuff, wheat pennies, and last year I river walked this turn of the century dump, just walking the river, looking. I actually built a sifter, and I tried doing that for a couple hours, and that was real hard work. And I kind of bailed on that, but just walking in a little river, I eyeballed an Indian head and a wheat penny just laying on the bottom of the river. No detector or anything with me, just eyeballed it.
Oh, that's it. You're off of Barb's Christmas list now. What about you, Taylor? You found pretty much the same incidentals like Maya was mentioning, or Maya had asked Jim about, and Jim had mentioned?
Yeah, I think the most common things besides bottles, I found lots of marbles. Especially in the city dumps, you find a lot of the clay pipes. That was very popular back, I guess, if you were a factory worker.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and one of my favorite finds that is also, it's bottle related, it's the porcelain stoppers for, like, say, a soda or liquor bottle. It'll have the company name stamped on it. And you'll find those separate from the bottles, because the bottle broke, that might survive.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, you find quite a few metal artifacts. I think quite a few buttons. I've dug some padlocks. Not a lot of coins, but like Jim said, a handful of wheat pennies. Large cents, I guess, because they stick out. I found one just lying on the ground once in a dump. That was pretty cool.
Wow. Nice way to find it. Next question, Maya.
Yeah, we've got a little list going, so I'll try not to totally take over the show
boy.
here. But, oh boy, yeah.
Well,
so,
hey, that's fine.
Yeah. So I guess there's only two more so far. Ask about. Okay, so we want to know about finding privies. I want to know about finding privies in yards, and then Ohio Relic Hunter wants to know about finding privies in a plowed field.
Okay.
And I'm wondering how that's possible. Well, because you know what? Actually, we just saw Taylor do it up in New York. So tell us about that.
Oh, so Taylor was one of them on the bottle dump at Pound the Ground.
One of those troublemakers, right?
Ah.
Nah.
No, I heard everything
yeah.
was done quite well, but yeah, it sounds like Taylor
Beautiful,
maybe
yeah.
want to be the first one up to bat for this question.
All right, so it's kind of ironic that I never actually officially dug a privy, although I've been trying to for the last couple of years. But it's tricky because you need a special tool. Well, if you want to find them, and you want to start out at least the best best yards for privies are going to be small yards and cities, with houses that are like back to back. Because the less space they had in a yard, the more likely they would have to dig a nice deep privy. If you're out in the country, they dig them pretty shallow, and you're not going to find as much. And they're going to be harder to find, too, because you have more ground to cover. So you look from the city, and what I've done before is you have a long metal probe, and you basically probe the ground. You try along the back end of the property, the corners, where there most likely would be an outhouse. And when you're probing, you're going to feel a natural bottom to the soil around it. And then when you hit a privy, it's going to go probably right down to the handle of a probe that could be 4 to 6 feet long.
Right, it's kind of like the ground just falls out from under you.
Yeah, more or less.
Because of the disturbed ground, the softer ground. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, this is definitely first of all, if you want to watch videos on how to do it, Southern Searcher is one of my favorites, and Crick Diggers, CRICK Diggers. Those two channels right there are big into privies, especially Southern Searcher. He amazes me. I watch everything, but I found the privy on my house. The back of my house is 1860, which might be a little. I think you want to, age is important. But like Taylor said, in the country, there's all kinds of land here. You just throw it over the bag, So I don't know. I found my privy by accident, layering some rocks around the house for drainage off the roof so it wouldn't splash up on my new siding. And so we're digging around, and I just noticed the composition of the dirt was different. And so I went and another bottle digger years ago had given me a probe that he had made out of stainless steel. And boy, I'll tell you what, you get on that dirt, and you just take a couple fingers and just tap the top of that probe, it'll go right down to the ground. If you're on a privy that doesn't have much overburden over it or coverage.
Right.
So you definitely want to find a sunken. There's always in the back of the house, and you want to find a sunken. You can look and basically see a sunken area.
Right, and another resource, too, that some people may find handy for that, not so much for the country, but primarily for the city, are the old Sanborn fire maps.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So I dug part of this. I will say it's not as easy as it looks, and I was turned off because it was kind of shallow, but I did dig first couple feet of it, and I pulled Middletown Springs water bottle piece. This isn't started. So that was like, wow, you find like porcelain plates, like Taylor said, the clay pipes. I found some of that, but mine seemed shallow, so I kind of gave up a little early, and knowing that I had to have it filled back in before the wife came home, But, I also took my son on over in another town. I had permission to dig a privy, and it was a 3-holer. And it's still there, and I can still go back there. My son and I we got too late of a start in the day, but, laid the tarp out.
You got to get an early start on them.
Yeah, cut the sod, and I had brought like 10 or 15 of those 5-gallon buckets, figuring I would fill each one up and then pile the rest of the dirt on the tarp, and, oh man, we filled those up pretty quick. What I didn't anticipate was a root, and I didn't have a good saw with me, so I kind of had to bail on that one because she wanted to fill back in the same day. So I was like, oh boy. But surprisingly on the surface, I found more bottles. You had like one of the things we didn't talk about was the ash layer. She had an ash layer, 2 yards, so I kept cutting sod pieces out and pulling, I pulled out a couple cone ink. I did find a couple of whole bottles that were embossed. 1800 stuff was right on the top. So
wow.
I didn't know if I forgot my probe that day too. But
no probe, no saw. You're having a bad day.
It was a 3-holer on the back of the house, but it was still attached. It was part of the house.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have to locate it. I just had to dig it.
Right. That makes it a lot
easier. It was
easier.
much bigger than I had thought. But like I said, we only went down a couple of feet and we hit a bunch of roots, so I don't know if I kept going, if I would have found anything, but most of the stuff seemed on top.
Right, may have to go back and give it another go and see. See what happens there.
That's a lot of work.
Next question, Maya. I'm just going to put you to work.
I know, right? I could be an apprentice. Here you go. I've got it. Ready? Okay. So, we want to know about dating bottles. How do we go about doing that? I know that Taylor's taught me a little bit about that. So definitely would be interesting to share with everybody else about that.
Good point. Taylor?
All right. Well, there's a lot of stuff you can learn about it. I would definitely suggest for starters, there's a great website called sha.org. I think that's something like the Society for Historical Antiquities. But they have a whole page on all kinds of ways to date bottles. That's a really good place to start. But as far as just like some simple ways to date bottles, the biggest one I'd say is between handmade bottles and machine-made. Easiest way to tell is look on the side of bottles. They all have mold seams usually, and these seams will go on a machine-made bottle from the bottom right to the top of the lip. And on handmade bottles, the tops were hand-finished with a special tool. So the seam's going to be going up the side of the neck, and it's going to disappear either just below the lip or somewhere on the neck. And you can see it just kind of just fades out.
Nice, and hopefully somebody can put that link in the chat as well for those who may be interested in going on and browsing that website as well. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the books that really inspired me were the Adams books. He wrote 3 of them. He was a professor at UNH back in 69 or 70. He was an avid bottle digger, and back then the whole family would go out bottle digging. And he actually cataloged all mostly, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island type bottles, and got lots of pictures. So I definitely like. But I'm telling you what, I could read those books over and over and over again. You can get them on eBay, and you can find used copies for sale. But I think it's John Adams, but don't quote. It's Adams. And,
right. And you're exactly right.
volume.
eBay is a great avenue to kind of fill your reference library.
Yeah, and I would tend, these books are like from 1970, 71, and most of the books, I have an avid collection of the books, like cases of them, because I was so interested in learning. The books definitely from the 60s and 70s, books on bitter, slaughter, and local, slaughters.
Right.
And then,
I get the
cool stuff.
I get the impression you've got quite a few collections going on in your house.
Yeah, I do. I probably have. I mean, I'm not. I have way too many. I'm a little bit obsessive.
We all get there sooner or later. There's nothing you can do but try to cope with it, I guess. Next question, Maya.
I actually think that might be it, other than something about marbles, which I didn't get a clear answer on. I think they were asking whether we were talking about clay marbles, if you guys find clay marbles or glass marbles in your bottle dumps, and then what are they there for? Where'd they come from? How'd they get there?
Good
So
question.
that's kind of a multiple.
Right. Well, I guess Taylor.
In general, clay marbles are older. They're also the more cheaper to produce. I mean, they're all basically hand rolled, but I probably had a bunch of kids making them. So what's neat is they're all kind of different shape, not quite round. And those are any dumps from maybe 1870s to up to 1920 or so. That's usually the most common marbles you'll find. I think it's the plain clay ones, and sometimes the fancier ones will have glaze. I haven't found many of those. And then the glass ones, the early ones are usually more fancy and ornate. I've seen some that have they call them a German swirl.
Right.
And then once you hit like 1920s, the glass marble will start taking over a lot because I think they had a machine method to make those as well.
Yeah, and there can be quite a collector base for the marbles too.
Oh yeah, I have probably well over 100 or more, and I have no clue if any of them are like really valuable or not. But they're nice looking.
Taylor, are those question that somebody else had asked earlier? Are those bottles? I mean, the marbles. Do those ever come from the old soda bottles that had marbles in them? Do you think, or is that?
Yeah, on occasion
they will.
Yeah, there's a certain bottle that was popular in England. Jim would know these too. The cod style bottles, which basically had a little rubber gasket in the neck and a marble that would form the seal. So to break the seal, to drink from it, you push the marble down, and that would make a pop sound, which some people think the word soda pop came from. But
I can see that being a very bad idea. Nothing good comes of this. Somebody's going to choke.
Yeah, well, they were. Yeah. I think they were made so they wouldn't pass the top of the bottle. They were bigger than the mouth.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is, of course, the kids are like, "Hey, a marble," and they go and smash the bottle, get the marble.
Right.
You will find those in dumps sometimes, and of course, much to diggers' dismay, all the cod bottles are usually broken because of that.
That would make sense. Yeah, definitely. That's certainly an interesting aspect of it, and a very good question. I'm glad you called in, Maya.
Yeah, I could get let somebody else have a chance. There's a whole bunch of questions in here.
My chat locked up, so I haven't seen any of these.
Oh, yeah, really?
Well, another thing about the marbles is, like you said, the clay marbles are pretty cheaply made. There are Bennington marbles that I forget. There might be some dimples that form like a triangle on a Bennington marble. But the glass marbles, the early ones, I love them. I have every marble I've ever dug, I keep in a mason jar. And like I said, I scored 6 on Sundays. I always consider it really good luck when you find a marble. I don't know why, but anyways, the glass ones, some of the ones with multicolors, they have the Popeye. They were called the Popeyes and the Supermans. The reason why they were called that was because they had the cardboard that they were mounted to, those marbles, that was Superman and Popeye. And so the Superman would be yellow, blue, and red, and it would have those stripes around it. But the center, I think, is translucent. I could be wrong, but somebody had taught me this. And so, yeah, there's, you never know. I just throw them all in a jar. But, yeah, there's some pretty savvy marble collectors out there that you can get some information from. But, the kids' toy, it's the same thing with toys. You find toys in the dump, the 1920s cap guns that look like real guns, revolvers, Western. All the toys got thrown out. When a child was grown up or whatever, it's kind of like, that's why baseball cards are comic book toys so much, because it was trash. Got thrown out. So it became rare.
Well, it does make sense, yeah.
So, yeah. I actually have down in my bottle room, I have cap guns, and I've got them hanging all the way around the perimeter of doorways. Where I've dug like 20 of them, over the last 8 years. I love that kind of stuff. And the locks, the pancake locks, I restore those. I collect those. Of course, I collect everything, but yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is, nobody's mentioned is the license plate. Those are real decent to find, decent shape.
Oh yeah.
Probably Taylor's probably found a lot more porcelain ones in his area than I have, but I do. The porcelain plates are amazing.
Oh, yeah, the porcelain plates are awesome and quite a collector base for them.
I've got a 1910 Vermont plate that I dug locally, and doing the research, they only had 2,500 cars in the state of Vermont that year with the plate on. So,
wow.
you can figure out real quick how rare these are with just with the internet. And I hang those on the wall too, so if something were ever to happen to me and they go down to my basement and we think I had a museum or something going.
Definitely finds to be proud of, for sure. Any other questions, Maya?
Yes. So one last question so far. What are the signs to find a bottle dump or a privy? I know they're probably different for both, but are there anything that's, less obvious than, say, a bottle just sitting on the surface?
Right, like
that they should be looking for?
Like, how did you find the bottle dump at Pound the Ground?
Yeah. Taylor.
Yeah, it was funny because I've heard of detectors finding bottle dumps before. And I'm like, yeah, that might be me, and maybe not right away in the future. And the first event I go to, where do I find? Bottle dump. And there was no sign whatsoever on the surface. And basically what happened was I was getting signals for big iron. And they sound decent, so I was digging them, and before you know it, I'm looking at pottery shards, glass shards, and a lot of metal pans, and just scrap iron. And so yeah, you can definitely find bottle dumps with your detector, and a lot of times that's the best way to do it if there's no surface evidence for the dump. A lot of times you'll see, some shards, or a lot of times there'll be ash on the surface. But if they a lot of times they cap a dump with fresh dirt just to make it look better or to hide the smell, and so you won't be able to see that that actually was a dump unless you dig down through that cap.
Makes sense.
What about the location, that you found it on? I mean, there's a giant field, but you knew kind of where you were looking, right?
No, actually, I wasn't looking for the dump.
Well, so is there any, physical features that people should be looking for, like usually at the bottom of a hill or off a cliff or something? Is it under a big tree? Is it specific like that, you think, or is it just kind of random?
Yeah, in general, it's gonna be. I think we mentioned a little bit earlier, out of sight, out of mind. So this one at Pounding Ground was actually on a small hillside. It wasn't very noticeable, but it was enough that they would be throwing it slightly downhill. Especially get a big slope behind a house. People love throwing things down slope, and then also if you got like a swamp or even land that's like, say, really rocky that you can't use for like farming. Unfortunately, they'd throw a lot of bottles, in rock piles.
Right, along the waterways.
Yep, and in rivers too. You got houses on rivers. Quite often there'd be a slope down to the riverbank, so they'd throw them on the slope and they'd find them in the river. So rivers are great places if you got old houses along them. You can go in there with either snorkel, or some people I know actually dive for bottles, and they find great stuff in rivers.
Oh yeah, Bob Marks recovered quite a few of them way back when he was doing work there at Port Royal. But that's before some people's time here on the show.
Oh yeah, cool.
And I guess coincidentally too, it would be a great time to mention, since apparently you were involved with the bottle dump at Pound the Ground. I heard some very good things about the way that was put back together, so kudos to you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's never the easy part, filling back the hole, but yeah, I always want to make sure, leave the place as I found it.
Absolutely. Any other questions, Maya?
Got one last question, and I'm signing out because I've got to get up early in the morning.
But,
we're
working her too hard, folks.
Yeah, they're working me too hard. All this digging and working's crazy. But so Detect Ed Outdoors would like to know, when are they doing a dig off in the same video? When do we expect to see you guys? Oh, actually, now I have another question after that, but we'll start with that one. So when do you guys do the video? I don't know.
For me, it would be a privilege to dig with Taylor. He's one of my. He's one that I'd actually look up to as far as his skills. He's definitely all that with the bottles, and like when he came back to the room that night, we shared a room, and he had bottles. First thing he said is, "I found a bottle dump," and I'm like, I just shook my head. I'm like, only you out of a million would find that,
Right.
But,
we're up here for a big seated event, and you find the bottle dump.
Yeah, and it makes sense in a weird way, And I would love that. I'm still waiting for my invitation to come down there, but I don't think I can impress him much with what I've got going over here right now, but, maybe someday we get,
So the way it sounds, then, you two are certainly not opposed to doing a collaboration, or even digging with others, for that matter. I mean, we heard Taylor talk earlier in the show about him and Maya getting together a couple of times doing some digging.
Oh yeah, quite often I have some friends in Rhode Island I dig with fairly often, a few different diggers. I don't think most of them do YouTube videos though. So to my knowledge. And I have dug with other folks too that are, out of state and still in the New England area. So yeah, Tim and I definitely do to have a meetup. And I would say he's welcome to come down to Rhode Island. I got a few big dumps that will be sure to find some fun bottles in.
There you go. Yeah, get Maya in there too, and have a three-way collaboration going on there.
Woohoo! Let's do it. Okay, so another question. Ohio Relic Hunter. Ohio Relic Hunter wants to know: have either of you guys done any gold prospecting, or would you like to?
Good question. Jim?
Yeah.
Taylor?
Well,
I can't say
I would like to. I wouldn't mind doing that in some of these small creeks and stuff around here. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Right.
To see what you could do, and I like the thought of I'm more impressed with I can't remember the terminology, what you call the device to take the black dirt and the water goes through, I like that whole process and that setup. I wouldn't mind trying it. I know it's hard work, though. But it definitely sounds cool.
Right.
Yeah, as far as for me, I can't say I'm terribly interested. I mean, if there was a spot where people were finding a lot of gold, then maybe it would be kind of cool to try out. But for me, it's definitely more the excitement of finding a historical artifact that's man-made, because it really gets me going. And I would say, as far as other artifacts, as I just started to recall, thinking about it, I have found two Indian artifacts digging bottle dumps before, and that's something I'd love to do. Would be to look for spots where you can find Indian artifacts as well.
Are we talking like mortise and pestle, or points, or what, or aren't you comfortable mentioning?
Oh yeah, I found one. My first find was an arrowhead. Actually, I think it's called a felt. So it looks a little bit like an axe head, but it's more made. I forget the exact purpose, but it's a large handheld tool. And then, actually, just last week, I was in the bottle dump too, and I found some sort of a scraper, I believe. It was broken, but it was still quite visible what it was. And that was
still cool to find. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They got any more questions, Maya, or are they taking it easy on you?
That's all, folks.
Well, there you go.
That's all we got. Thank you for letting me call in. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Call in anytime like that. It was definitely a nice change of pace to have a hand with the questions, Maya. You're more than welcome anytime.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. And I would imagine with her fielding all of those questions, she was probably taking down a list of notes herself going, yeah, I'm going to have to commit this to memory. I got some spots I need to check out. So hopefully it was good.
I'd like to find some Indian artifacts as well. That would definitely intrigue me more than the gold panning. The other thing is like the shark's teeth.
Oh, yeah.
See them down in Florida. That really intrigues me for some reason, because it's kind of similar, where you're looking kind of like with Indian artifacts, you're looking for that look on the beach or rocky area, and the excavation's very similar, I think, to bottle digging, that intrigues me a little.
Absolutely. Well, they all worked Maya pretty hard there towards the end, so I guess big shout out to Maya there. Everybody give her a good thanks in the chat, and nice having the hand of assistance there for sure. Before we go, though, I'll give each of you a few minutes to mention where people can find you on Facebook, YouTube, things like that. Give you guys a couple of minutes to do your shout-outs or any plugs you'd like to do, and we'll get on out of here.
Okay, for me, it's Montshiredigger on YouTube, and be patient. I'll have a video out in the next week or so, and hopefully a lot more to come, even though the winter is setting in. And it's also Montshiredigger on Instagram.
Okay, and they can always find you over on All Metal Militia on Facebook.
All Metal Militia, yeah. That's something in my page.
Right. What about you, Taylor?
Like Jim said, I have YouTube and Instagram. They're both RIBottleguy. And I haven't gone any more platforms currently. I did have a video out, I think, last night, and I should have one or two in the future. I'm kind of sporadic when it comes to putting them out, so you have to bear with me, but I do put them out there.
Nice. Well, maybe one of these days we can get you to come to the dark side and join us on Facebook as well.
Indeed. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on Facebook too, but just as my normal profile.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. Well, anything else you guys would like to add?
Can't think of anything.
Okay.
But definitely, if you have never tried bottle digging, don't be afraid to try. And it is cool. It's great exercise and great way to spend some time outdoors. It takes work and some trial and error. Don't get discouraged. Give it a try. You may find something cool.
Right. Very, very good point for sure. Hang in there with me for just a few minutes, guys. I've got a couple of things to cover real quick, and we'll get out of here. So big thanks definitely to Jim and Taylor both, Montshiredigger and RIBottleguy on YouTube. Those links are in the description. Obviously, big shout out to Maya, Miss Detectors. Check out her page and YouTube channel as well. Very big thanks to her for the assistance tonight. Very nice change of pace. And for those that are wondering, well, make sure and check out Kendall's YouTube channel and obviously Ed's, Detect Ed Outdoors. And for those wondering what's going on Sunday, normally we've been keeping everything pretty hush-hush here lately, but want to make sure to get this mentioned tonight. Sunday, we've got a very interesting thing coming up. It's kind of a UK trip how-to. What you can expect if you travel abroad to hunt, if you go over to the UK to hunt, England tours, things of that nature, the barn hunts, what you can expect as far as your fines, the proper process of reporting, the paperwork, maybe even expected time to have them back, because it does take some while. If you get them back at all, it does take some time, obviously. Very interesting experiences that go on over there. It's a real adventure, quite frankly. And we will be on with Connecticut Todd Yerkes, speaking about that Sunday. So make sure and bring your Deus, your CTX, or even your Equinox questions, as well as your UK and traveling abroad questions. I'm sure you can find plenty of information on his website, cttodd.com. We'll have that in the description for Sunday as well. And for those that have heard Todd on the show before or know Todd, you know he's always a wealth of information, a very informative guest to have on the show. We've had him on in the past. We've talked about permissions. We've talked about the Deus. We've talked about the CTX. And it's been a while since we've had him on, so we're really looking forward to that. We will be back Sunday with Connecticut Todd. For everyone else, thanks again for Jim and Taylor for taking the time. If you enjoyed the show, make sure and throw us a like right here. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Spreaker. You can follow us on YouTube. Join us on all of them, one of them, or none of them. The choice is entirely up to you. Until the next time, folks, we've got to roll. Hang in there with me, guys, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.